Most consulting offers sound like they've been written by ChatGPT. Buzzwords, blah, and completely forgettable. If you want to stand out, don't copy your competition. Exploit their weaknesses, and here's how you do it. The reverse benchmarking method is how tech consultants can create offers that actually stand out. Hey there, my name is Vincent. I help tech professionals launch consulting or service-based businesses, either in their spare time or as their main business. I've worked in tech and pricing for 30 years, and I've launched hundreds of offers globally around the world. This method is what I use when my clients ask me, how do I actually stand out? How am I unique? At the end of this video, you will know how to research your competition and design an offer that is strategically different. Not louder, just smarter. Before we start, I wanted to tell you a story about how I came about this reverse benchmarking method. It's actually something I've been doing for many years without that actual name. The term, however, reverse benchmarking isn't mine. I've taken it from Rory Sutherland. Rory Sutherland is someone I've come across in YouTube videos, trainings, but I've also actually seen him in a real life marketing event. And he's obviously very articulate, if you don't know him, if he's very articulate, and how he talks about different things in marketing and in the industry. So when he presented, he described this example of Will Guidara. Will Guidara was a restaurant owner. He had a really good restaurant, but he wanted to become the top restaurant in the country. So what did he do? He took all his staff and he went to what at that time was the best restaurant in the world to understand what they're doing. And at the end of the evening, he talked to his staff and he wasn't interested at all at what they were good at, what that restaurant was good at. He was much more interested in what they were not good at. Things like someone said, oh, well, the coffee was actually a little bit plain, or they didn't really have any sort of good beer selection, a good wine selection, but not a beer selection. And some people simply like beer. Now, as a result of that exercise, Will Guidara basically asked one of his staff to become a coffee sommelier, and someone else that had sort of an interest in beer and craft beers, he became the beer sommelier. And by doing that, he basically went to the competition, looked at what they're somewhat good at, but he knew they were good at the food, but he actually looked at the things they were not so good at. What are they not doing? What is the white space, if you will? So that's really where it all came about. So I've taken that learning and actually realized that I've been doing that for more than 20 years in my own career, as I've been doing pricing and pricing strategy and looking at the competition and being very aware of both where your competitors are strong, but also where they're weak, but also where you yourself are strong and where you're weak. Okay? So what we're going to do now, we're going to go through the next number of steps to go through this reverse benchmarking method. So I have this resource here that just shows the 6 different steps and how you can actually apply this in your own business for creating your own offer. Okay? So that's a bit of background. Let's get into how I systematize this for tech consultants and tech companies so you can do the same. We're going to walk through my 6-step reverse benchmarking method. And it's a really practical way to find the gaps in the market and position yourself in your offer as a no-brainer for your type of customer. Yeah, let's go. Okay, so the 6-step method, right? And I'll use some examples along the way when I talk about this. And as we do this, make some notes for yourself and see how you can apply it in your own business or for your own consulting service that you're looking at. Okay? So firstly, what we want to do, we want to spy the field. Yeah, that's the first step, spy the field. You need to identify 5 of your competitors. And I recommend that's a mix of big competitors and maybe medium-sized competitors and smaller competitors, maybe boutique ones, right? So you have a few of each, 2 big ones, 1 or 2 small or medium-sized sort of competitors, as well as maybe a few boutique-type competitors as well. You can learn from all of them, okay? So this gives you the lay of the land, from polished sort of corporates to maybe scrappy freelancers, okay? For example, if you take Dan, he's a tech consultant specializing in device lifecycle management. Think onboarding, but also offboarding, asset tracking. He looks at HP's device as a service, right? A big MSP like Computer Center and a few smaller consultants on LinkedIn that seem to have a promising sort of value prop. Yeah. He's not only looking for competitors, but he's building a bit of context for himself. Okay? So that's really the first step of the reverse benchmarking method, identifying who your competitors are. Okay? So a quick note, by the way, if you want to map this out on your own, I've got a free blueprint that you can download in the link below. So use it to kind of spot your gaps, to how you can sharpen your offer and start getting better clients, frankly. Okay? Cool. Step number 2. This is really about mapping the landscape. So first really step what you want to do is to really understand what your competitors are offering. What's their messaging? You know, document these things, right? So is there any of these things very specific in there? What problems are they solving? Who are they targeting as a client? Do they target certain verticals, vertical industries? Are they a healthcare kind of practice, for example, right? And what is their go-to-market strategy? Do they sell other people's services, right? Or are they creating their own? So those are the type of things you can sort of start forming a little bit of a context really for this exercise, right? And then make a judgment, right, at what they are good at. What are their strengths? Many large competitors obviously have a bit of a presence. They may have a brand awareness, but it doesn't mean that you can't compete with them, okay? And sometimes if some of these competitors have some vague commentary, right? Some things are not clear, they're not specific, then that can also be seen as a weakness. Large competitors, for example, will often be quite generic. They don't necessarily solve very specific client problems in law firms or in healthcare or anything like that. They become a bit more generic. For the example around device management, most of them will talk about full lifecycle support for devices, but it's quite generic. There's no mention of decommissioning or how they dispose of an asset, for example, and very little about recycling and compliance. So this is maybe a headache for the clients that he wants to go after. So they don't necessarily just want to buy laptops, but they want to actually offload the whole hard work that comes around with it when someone joins a company, but also when someone leaves a company. So you can start seeing maybe a bit of a gap, okay? So that's the second step of the process done. The third step is to mirror yourself, okay? So now you need to look at yourself and compare yourself to some extent with these competitors, you know, also on the same sort of high-level messaging. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses in comparison? You're obviously not a big brand, you're not a big competitor, you don't have a lot of cash, but you can be fast, you can be adaptable. And that guy that's used to manage, you know, hundreds of devices within a business, you know, what it's like to kind of chasing after laptops and manually remove, I don't know, 2-factor authentication tokens, etc. The point being is that you have a certain amount of experience and you need to leverage that, okay? You're not a big brand, you don't have big cash reserves, and you need to acknowledge that, by the way. You need to be very aware of what your weaknesses are as well as your strengths, right? So don't be oblivious to it, because at the same time that maybe others talk about scaling a business, you in your consulting business or your service-based business, you focus on what pain do my clients actually have and help them solve that in a very practical way. So you can't really out-corporate big guys, but you can out-human them. Okay? So it's all about solving real problems and challenges. Now, step 4 is my favorite, which is really stacking the features or the capabilities, right? So now you can maybe imagine a brochure or something of sorts, right? Maybe a car brochure where you see lots of features and capabilities and against different models of cars. And you see a tick or an X or in the different columns. So I want you to start thinking like that for yourself as well. So I want you to create a list of 10, 20, 30, 40, more even if you can, the more the better actually, of features, capabilities, services, skills, all those things that can become part of your offer. Okay? And you can use AI to help you with some of these things, right? So it's not necessarily that you have to do everything yourself. You use the tools available, but it's very important to start listing down a long list of features and capabilities. Now, I will tell you those lists of features and capabilities as such don't express value, but we'll get to that point later on. Okay? So once you have that whole list of features and capabilities, then for all of your competitors that you've identified in the first step, for all those competitors, mark if they support those features or if they have those features and capabilities or services, simply by putting a tick in that column of that competitor or a cross. A very simple exercise, and you do this for each of your competition, right? So if you look at device management, is it procurement? Do they have image management, asset tracking? Do they collect devices when they go end of support, for example? When there's a hardware refresh program underway, how do you deal with that, right? So there are a lot of different things that you can do in that device management kind of example as I've been using throughout this video. And maybe I always encourage people to think about how you can help people with process. It's not necessarily the service, but also with the process, or maybe with training, or how you can integrate your process into your customer's process in a smart way. Okay? So when you have this list, the goal is to get this really good list of features and capabilities so you can benchmark the competition against that. So you build that grid, so you have a really good view in what areas are your competitors strong, or in what areas are they maybe having a lot of X's instead of ticks. So you will naturally see where your competitors are not focused on. And this is the beginning of your white space, where you can start thinking differently. So that's really the 5th step, which is really to start thinking differently. It's time to get creative. What do clients wish they could do? In the device management side of things, HR really, I would imagine, doesn't like working with IT or the whole IT offboarding process when somebody leaves, right? Or when there's a restructuring, or then there is devices go missing and there's no audit trail, there's no peace of mind. So how does it all work? So you can, when you're building your offer, you can start adding maybe other things into the mix around maybe training HR, or you do serial number tracking, or you add a physical pickup service as part of your offer into the mix, right? So you can start thinking about these types of things, to think differently, to come up with ideas to make your offer different. In many cases, I recommend things like training and education or processes just to help you make that stand out a little bit differently. So you're not only becoming maybe a technology provider or tech service provider, but you become an educator, or you become a facilitator, you become a process integrator as part of your offer as well, which, if you do it right, nobody else does that. You can already start seeing how you can make those things really unique to yourselves, okay? So next step is really to understand where the gaps are. So step number 6, spot the gaps and shape your offer. Okay? So with this grid, you have all the features and capabilities, you have all your competitors, you can see where they're not good at, you see some new capabilities where you some white space. Now it's time for you to put the ticks in the boxes in those rows where you can build your offer around. And by the way, you don't have to have ticks in every single box, right? There's also the practical side of things. If you have to be able to do 100 different things, then you also need to get your organization ready and your business ready to do all those things. The focus is really on identifying the things that you can do now and identifying maybe a number of things that are so unique that allows you to stand out from your competitors. So you focus on developing those as part of your offer, and then you can use that also to market it, right? Because when you have unique capabilities that add value, that solve a problem for a customer, then that becomes the hook for your customers really to latch onto in your marketing. So they will approach you because you have thought about the problems that your customers may have in a completely different light. It will resonate with them because most of your customers will have different pain points than the ones that are naturally solved with tech, to make sense. Okay? So this could be, in the case of device management, stress-free boarding. It becomes a hook, right? So you end the life cycle management nightmare for HR people or IT people. So that is the final step, okay? Start shaping your own offer based on the grid you've created in steps 4 and 5. Let's recap this journey, right, and of how you can go through this. So the first step is to spy the field. So who are your competitors? The second step is you map the landscape. What are your competitors doing? What's their messaging? What's their go-to-market? The third part is really around yourself, right? What is your consulting business trying to solve? What messaging, what problems are you solving? What's your go-to-market strategy? At a high level, compare yourself and on those sort of high-level capabilities and messages and go-to-market strategies and strengths and weaknesses to your competition. Step 4, stacking the features. So here is all about creating lots of features and capabilities, and by structuring it this way, you can start seeing all the things you could be doing or don't or should not be doing. If all your competitors are doing it, then it becomes very hard to get into the mix, right? Then you become a me too player. What we're trying to do is create a situation and a structure for your offer that allows you to be unique. So don't do everything the same as your competitors, which is really where you start thinking differently in step 5, which is how you can find a little bit of white space. Think a little bit laterally. Use AI tools to help you with your thought process. And finally, you spot the gaps and you shape your offer. So which areas are you going to focus on in your business? So that's really how you build a consulting offer that your clients will actually remember and buy. So that's it in terms of the reverse benchmarking method. Finally, I do advocate, as I kind of referred to earlier, that you use AI tools, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, or whatever tools you want to use, to really help you refine it. The thoughtfulness, however, needs to come from you. In the end, you will have to deliver the service to your customer, so you need to be or become very comfortable with it. So don't necessarily take everything that ChatGPT gives you and use it verbatim. Be thoughtful about it, critique it, ask it questions, ask ChatGPT to ask you questions to refine and continue to come up with a better, more unique value proposition for your consulting offer, for your business. So if you enjoyed this video and you want more practical tools to help you build your consulting business, simply hit the subscribe button and check out some of the other videos and other content I've made. For example, the 152 method, or the department resource grid. They're all designed to help tech professionals start, launch, relaunch their consulting business, their service-based business. And if you're ready to start to scale your own business properly, feel free to connect with me on social media and reach out, or simply comment below.